Places, chaps. We are live.
Oh,
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
oh.
You have to excuse us if we're having a few issues. Well, I'm having a few issues with Ben. He keeps changing size, as you might be able to see in the stream there. Hold. See that he just keeps going big and small, and But we'll get. Let's resize Ben because just as we went live, he just decides to expand. So I have no idea why. But there we go. Let's just try that. See if he stays put. Right. So, can we just get before we crack on? Can we just get some feedback from the chat room to say that we're coming through loud and clear? Can't even spell. Once we get a yes, because I don't want to start up a feed of the show because then you'll get all sorts of. It's bad enough seeing like 3 images of myself and they're all slightly out of sync. I feel like I'm in a Queen video.
We got our yeses.
Yay! Excellent.
Nice.
Well, I'm afraid we don't have a fanfare. Let's Ben just give us a fanfare quickly on the Hydrosynth. Brilliant. Well done. There you go. We're on. We're live. Welcome to what is the third test broadcast of the Pro Synth Network show. I suppose that's a title, isn't it? And this time we've actually got our esteemed leader, Ben Simpson.
Sure. Don't know about it.
And of course, we've got Chris as well, who we had last time, and of course, myself. And in the other corner is parts of a Behringer UBXA, but we'll come on to that later. So, first of all, let's just go round the room and say hi.
Sorry. I'm good. Good. Still having to go to work every day, so I'm not enjoying some of the benefits that other musicians have with the extra time that they can dedicate in the studio. But, I'm not saying I envy them. I'm just saying it's not my turn yet. Hopefully soon. I just work in a school, and the school's still open, so we've got a small provision of students, and it means we've got to be in every day. Yeah. Um, I had a little side project going. But I've got to be honest, I have not been in the studio since Christmas, and that's like really horrific. But uh, apologies. uh, but I started a little side project just before Christmas called Overlane, and I got one track going of that and an idea of the style, and I'm quite excited about that. When I finally get back in here, I'm hoping that it's still going to sound as good as it did when I left it, and I can add more songs to the EP or whatever it's hopefully going to be. Yeah. Oh.
So in the chat room, Robbie is working. If you guys can still hear me, Robbie is working on his microphone. Also, Robbie. Oh, I'm just getting an echo there. Jamie has sent the invitation, so you should be able to get him on after you're done with this. Well, I think that's something that has characterized this time is all of a sudden learning lots of new technology.
Okay. Chat room, I need you to give me a yay or a nay as to whether you can hear me or not now, because I think I figured it out and it's a really, really schoolboy error. Let's just wait to see if they can hear me.
That's kind.
Phantom power. Phantom power.
So, no, it's not. That usually is. It usually is phantom power, or lack thereof. But no, come on, chat. This is the damn lag. Hey, so yeah, that's better.
Yeah,
right, I have figured out
there we go.
the problem, and I need to kind of then stop talking. So if Chris, take the reins for a second.
All right, we'll get this done here. We'll get this done
so,
here.
yeah, let me just.
All right. So, I'll tell you guys what I've been working on here. So, everything else I've been doing is slowed down because we can't meet with anybody in our area. Probably Mike else is we've been told it all. So everything is shut down. You can't even. I guess you can go to Starbucks still, but you have to use a drive-through. And so it's made for. It's been actually a little bit busier for me because there's been people bustling around the house, just the three of us. But other than that, like I'm looking forward to spending some more time here in the studio. And I sat down yesterday to start working on a new song. It's like I don't have to do anything else. I don't have to get anything done right now. So that's a nice little break. Hey, one thing we should mention, two of our Pro Synth Network people, both Jamie of GeoSense and Mark Barnes, who is Angel Star Scotland, are both have sound sets out. Of course, Jamie has lots of sound sets, but he's got a 15% sale going on right now. So please head over to his website, GeoSense, and check out his great sound sets. And also, Mark Barnes has just released, or at least he's put up a video for some of his new wave state sounds, which sound really good.
Yes, I heard some of those.
I mean, I was... I'm trying to hold off not wanting to get one of those, but he is making it very tough.
Excellent. Right, okay, so I think I've figured out the audio thing, so I'm just going to go over...
Good.
So we've got that and that and that. So we've flicked over to a Ben view at the moment, and I just wanted to make sure that people can hear me and Chris. Chris, can you just give us a mic check?
Yeah. Check.
Brilliant. I've got feeds coming through on that, so I guess the guys will tell us in the chat room, but apparently there was a slight problem with echo, but that's gone, so that's good. So fingers crossed. Now, let's see if we can do this. Now that we've got everything sorted, let's really crack it up. And let's see if we can bring in Jamie. So let me just set up there. And I'm sorry, I'm just talking to myself. I'm terrible for doing this. I have to... Right. Jamie, accept. And then let's see if we can really mess this up.
What are you doing now? We got all the usual suspects in the chat room. We got Wagyu, ACO Head, Sasquatch, Native VS, Tonal axis. See, JP page 2. What else we got here? Welcome everyone.
Yeah, I heard.
Internet.
Right, so
we can steal Jamie's material. He would have used.
right, so we're calling Jamie, so hopefully we'll be able to get him in on the action soon. And I think we have him.
Aha!
Yeah, so bear with us.
Yes.
So they're reporting the guests are echoing.
Set up, and I think now hopefully.
Yeah.
So let's add in Jamie to NDI source, add existing Jamie. Jamie can sit. So we're now proper celebrity squares going on here, hopefully. And if everyone's sizes if their stream thing keeps changing, and all this clicking you can hear is me frantically tapping away on my trackpad. Jamie.
Yeah.
Hello. Can you hear us? Can everybody else hear Jamie?
I can very well. Yes. Sorry about the live stream earlier on. I would have been better off like it's But no. Thank you very much.
Well, hopefully we can do this a lot more often. This is great. I think it's saying in the chat room that it was echoing and it stopped, and that seems to correlate with me doing this kind of setup thing. So hopefully that's all that is. But just so that everyone knows, I think those of you that are here last week, we're doing this on the cheap. Okay, we haven't got any fancy gadgets. I've just got OBS and Skype, and at the moment my iMac is handling it all quite nicely. Which
Steve,
when you see the camera fog up, or just like when the celluloid burns in the movies, then you know that the iMac has given up, and that means Rob can get a new one.
Yes.
But no, it seems to be handling it quite well. After last week, and it was just me and me and Chris. I don't think I've ever heard the cooling fans kick in on this thing until last week, and that was the first time. So that was quite the thing. Anyway, thanks for everyone's patience. So,
says all the guests are echoing.
I think it's in this four shop. When all four are up. So whether when you create this shop for all four, that it's got audio on one of those create name.
Oh, I can see what's going on. Oh, right, yeah, okay. The echo is back, says Wagyu. Right, so how am I going to... See, if I mute... I really should read the manual.
No, it's more fun when you don't. It's more fun when you don't.
So the comments, easy ahead. Damn, I shouldn't have smoked so much. Ahead. And then smoked so much. Should rip the stream up after and take some samples. So we need some ambient music.
Now that's really odd. See, because maybe it's because I've got you all coming in on a single call. So I know that some people who do this, kind of professionally, have you all on different calls. So Ben, just give me a mic check.
1, 2.
Yeah. Chris.
1, 2.
Check.
Jamie.
Check.
Right. So fingers crossed that's got rid of the echo, because like Jamie very cleverly pointed out, I'd got like multiple audio feeds from the same Skype call coming in. And so what I need to do in that instance is just have one of you, because you all come in on the same channel. So so fingers crossed we can get something from the chat room in a sec.
What we're saying, echo is 4 times longer delay now. I know it's been a nightmare to me. This Mac nearly went out my window earlier on, but I traced it. It didn't seem to be my setup. I did the whole sort of testing, and it seems to have been YouTube, because the chat kept freezing. It said you can no longer read the chat or blah blah blah. But yeah, I think everyone and the Mark actually sent me a message and said, I think everybody and their dog is streaming tonight.
Yeah, and so, I think that's the thing, because everyone's doing it now. That's
a great thing as well. I think it's fantastic that everyone has decided, oh, you know what, I'm going to have a go at this. And instead of seeing the usual faces that we all see, mine included, that it's great to get all these other people out there, just doing things. And when I was sorting notes for my show today, I was thinking, looking at all these streams and all these videos, I'm thinking, wow, there's loads of them. I had loads of them lined up, but I guess I'll have to wait.
Well, I should say, like, I'm seeing, like, specifically in Facebook, there's a lot of people doing some really cool things. There's some people doing some really dull things, but then everyone does what they want to do. And if I see another fitness video thing, I'm going to get rather stabby, because I hate having that kind of stuff shoved down my throat, as you can tell. But no, there's some really cool stuff. People just making music or having a bit of a laugh and good stuff. Coming through on the chat room, everyone says it sounds good. So, as Sasquatch has said, don't touch anything again. I'll try. So that's on the 4cam shot. Now, if we go to, let me just try. Let's go to Jamie in a full screener. There we go. So hopefully, I can see my mic's coming through. Jamie's is coming through. But if Chris just gives me a mic check.
Check.
Yeah, brilliant. So we can so we've still got everyone else's audio coming through. That's good. I think we're good to go. I think we're golden. Right.
Lovely.
So we've actually tried to come up with like a little format, but we're still open to suggestions. I think we put something on the Facebook page. And so number one, we've created a YouTube channel. Now, I only did it today, so I'm still waiting for my permission to live stream on there. But once we get that, then it doesn't necessarily have to be me. It can be Chris, it can be Ben, or anybody else that we want to get in on the act that can host stuff on there. And we'll hopefully post videos and stuff, and it'll all, just be a nice little place where we can do all this live video and all that kind of malarkey. So that hopefully will launch in the next day or so, and then we can, maybe the next time we do this, we'll have that. And I'm conscious I don't want to keep using my channel, not because I mind, but because it just keeps coming up under, it's not me, this is all you guys. So that's that. So yeah, that's first thing. And then we're still kind of mulling ideas about what to do, because Jamie does an excellent job on his show, and then we've got the other shows that are around, and there are numerous ones. So we've got Rands that does his, and of course there's Sonic State and all these other shows, and they all have their own little way of doing things. So we don't want to copy; we want to innovate. So if you have any suggestions or ideas, let us know, either here or in the thing. Ben, yes, he's got his hand up.
I've got.
Go on then. Yeah.
I think it's got potential.
Well, I'm ready.
Piston synth. Piston.
Sounds good.
I think it's got potential. I'll just throw it in, you know.
Look, if it involves synthesizers and booze, I'm there. Definitely.
Or what is it? What is it? Coke, Jamie?
It is Coke for me. Yeah, I'm bloody teetotal, aren't I? So, yeah. I don't have the gin tonic like you do, unfortunately, Robbie. No,
tonight is wine. Tonight is a wine night tonight. But have you ever watched Drunk Histories? Oh,
no?
Yeah. It's brilliant. Yeah. They get somebody drunk, and then they get them to tell a factual piece of history. And then they get actors to act it out. So it's all kind of, it's all done separately and then edited later. But it's this drunk person trying to tell an historical tale involving, it's usually famous historical tales like how they discovered penicillin or something. And it's hilarious. It really is very, very good. So yeah, drunk synths. That could be a thing, couldn't it? Drunk synthesizers.
That's what you can have for next week. Ben can get totally pissed, and he can start describing how to make sounds.
Yeah, hydrosynth tutorials.
Yeah, tutorials. Yeah,
I'd have to be drunk for that. I haven't got a clue how it works yet.
Hey Robbie, they're saying that when it goes to a single shot, it drops the audio.
Damn.
Is it working with just all four of us up?
Yeah.
That's fine. That works.
Yeah, we'll leave it there.
Don't need to see my case closer.
When you switch to single cam for the replies, it goes mute. So, what? Who goes mute? Not the person on the camera, surely, but me. I think that's the. I'm going to have to See, the thing is, the only way you can test this properly is do it live.
Live, yeah.
So. I'll have to figure something out, but we'll leave it at this. Okay, I promise I shan't touch anything else. Marshall's just joined us in the chat room. Good afternoon. Yeah, it must be afternoon over there now, wherever you are in the US. Yeah, because we just went forward, so we've caught up with you guys over in the US with our clocks. So. It's all back to
that. Always screws me up every single year. That just messes me up because I never know. Luckily, there's people in the across the pond that will correct me, but it has totally foxed me this time and the last time.
Yeah.
But hey.
Well, so I work for an American company, so my boss is in California, and I've got colleagues in Minnesota and on the East Coast, and I've got another teammate who's in Hong Kong. And Hong Kong don't change. They've got it sorted. It's just like they stay the same. But of course, for half of the year now, we're all kind of askew with Hong Kong, or they're askew with us. But even so, we must be used to it now. We never do. My boss sets calls that for like 7 p.m. my evenings. No way, not going to happen. So anyway, shall we move on to our first topic? And now I'm kind of locked to this 4-shot thing. I'm not kind of sure how I'm going to get all these pages up, so we'll just have to kind of leave it. But we were going to talk about, first of all, the UBXA, because a few days ago Behringer posted the following: "What a great day today. Our latest UBXA PCB assemblies have arrived and all is fully working. We're now able to finalise the firmware in order to move the synth over the finishing line. They feel confident they can let us hear some beautiful sound soon. Great achievement, great achievement, Team Manchester." So the image, I'm sure most of you all seen it, are of a bunch of PCBs with various things, LEDs and screens and knobs and switches on. So it looks like finally the UBXA is going to materialise. Who wants to go on first with their thoughts on this one? Don't all rush.
Well, I think it's. I'm actually looking more for the CS80 to come out. I love the UBA or the original OBXA sound, but I do have an OB6, so got that really covered. Even that's more of the sim type filters and all that. But it's just good for us in that they're finishing something and it can move on to the next one. But I know there's a lot of OBXA fans out there, so that will be very good news. And I think I heard, maybe you guys know better, that they had redone some of the features on here. I know we don't know what they are, but it will be kind of interesting to see how that works out if they've added some stuff to it.
That does seem to be the way with Behringer's stuff, is that it's mostly the same as the inspiration behind it, but then they dabble and they put a little thing. Like, for example, on the 101, you've got the FM mod and you've got audio in. And what else was there? There was a couple of other just really small things. And of course, the sequencer was slightly different and the arpeggiator was slightly different. And I can't remember what's slightly different about the others, but there's always like one or two things. So, and I think that validates, if you just do a one-for-one copy, then, what you can missing an opportunity to do something better. So fingers crossed that.
And I think the best way to have it implemented is that it can do the original sounds, like nobody's worried that it sounds different, but then the features can be added into it. So if you have effects, make sure they're bypassable, or if you're going to add stuff like, FN, you can turn the knob down or whatever. Yeah. And that makes it kind of the best of both worlds. I know people will still complain like, oh, don't put those features on there, but if you can do the original sounds, why not?
Exactly.
Behringer's already done the R&D, so for other synthesizers, so something like effects or whatever it is, extra envelopes, they're not going to cost you that much to be implemented.
I think on the Odyssey, I think they did that really cool thing, and they actually put some digital effects on there. And I think every synthesizer needs some decent effects in there, because raw, there's not many synthesizers that sound good without effects. Jamie, what do you think?
Well, I mean, like Chris, I've got the OB6, and it'd be great. There's two sides to it, really. I could see it as being great as being a one-to-one copy of the original. However, when I put my kind of synth patch head on, the OB6 was a nightmare in that you can't name the patches.
Yes.
So it's like, 526. Oh, where did I put that pad sound? You go through every single one, unless you're using an editor or something like that. So it'd be great if they just even had a little screen on it. And I know some people are probably going, blasphemy, burn him at the stake for saying putting a screen on it. But just for naming the patches or some kind of things like, some functions, global functions to work out. So yeah, that for me would be great. Either do it as it was, or just as you say, add these extra things that, it's 2020, so we've been used to screens on synths for 30 years. So why put those on as well? So that's what I'd like to have. Also, voice count, whether it would be 8 voices or whether they'd slap more in, because I don't know if you remember back in the day when their first one was the DeepMind 12, and all the trailers coming out, the teasers, we all thought it was a monosynth at first, and then we've got 12 voices, so maybe they'll double them up. Don't know. All depend.
I mean, it just would be nice if they, I think they will, but going on previous form, I'm just trying to get the images up. So looking at the PCBs in this picture, there does appear to be a screen, albeit a fairly small one. It looks something like a 2, maybe a 3-line,
like the one that you see. Yeah, that'll be.
Let me see.
I haven't seen them yet. I'll have a look.
Brad, here we go. I've lost the picture now, so let's. Why does it do this? Yeah, we'll come back to that. Ben, what do you think? UBXA.
Yeah, well, two of my dreams since has always been the OB8 or the OBX, later on, and the Prophet 5. I've always wanted those two, and that's the rumours of Behringer bringing out the UB8 or whatever it is. Kind of spurred me on to go for this one instead of the OB6, really. Because there's no rumors of in the pipeline of a Prophet clone coming out, is there, as far as I know?
Well, I think that
so
there's always rumors of everything. Apparently, Behringer are going to clone the world, but
yeah. I don't know whether Dave will go for that.
Yeah, I think that one's going to sail a bit close to the wind because Dave's still around. Dave owns the names and stuff, and whereas a lot of these have, expired. I've just thrown the picture onto the screen so that I guess the guys watching the show can see. But there is a small LCD. It looks like a 2 or 3 line LCD on one of the main boards there. So fingers crossed. Does
that look like the voice board below that where the screen is?
Yeah, I think so. Although there's 4 boards, actually there's about 5 boards. We only see a couple. But yeah, that could be the voice because look at the amount of chips on there. Unless they're not chips and they're actually contacts for switches, but it's difficult to see. It's not the clearest of pictures. But yeah, it'll be interesting. We seem to have
that picture up there, just site where it's got it in a column. It's like a big tower.
That's odd.
That's a weird thing.
It's like the Mac Pro version of an analog synth.
Yeah, that was the first thing I thought. And I thought, to get to the filter, you must have to use a ladder.
He's here all week.
I wrote that one down about 2 days ago.
I think we talk a lot about Behringer, and I think I don't know whether it's just me, whether I've put a filter on, excuse the pun, but since the whole debacle, of which we shall not go into any detail this week about, but since that whole Peter Kern thing, it seems that their activity, whilst it hasn't ramped down, it's become a bit more, or a bit less sensationalist and a bit less, pokey, sticky, funny things. So maybe a lesson's been learnt, and if anything good can come from all of that, if that's it, then that's fantastic. So, but nice to see that they're still doing some of the things, and I think I said last week I'd still like to see them do another DeepMind, as in not like DeepMind, but another completely original synth. The world's screaming out for an affordable analog poly.
Belcham's no longer with him. The guy who created the DM12, he's not with them anymore.
No, most of the people that from the Manchester division aren't, for various reasons. But yeah, it's a shame. But then they've got the guy that is behind their ARP clone, the 2600 clone. He's supposed to be quite good. So
one thing looking at what might happen is that we saw, I mentioned last week that the guitar industry went through this same thing where in the 90s people started cloning tube screamers and fuzz faces and all sorts of effects and amps. And then the boutique industry really rose. It kind of came from a different direction from where Behringer is going. But, it started with pretty much clones, and then it started evolving like, let's change this. It could be really better. We could build on that idea. And so now you have a really, the guitar effects and amps market is huge for these things that are like building upon the sounds of the past, but with the features of the present or future. And so, the DeepMind being kind of the looking ahead, it would seem like we are heading in that direction, that when they kind of hit all these classic synthesizers, what will be coming next? Like, well, what do we do now? Well, let's make up something new. But will we see that right away? Probably not. There's lots of easy money to be made first just doing the clones.
Yeah, it's low-hanging fruit at the moment. Yeah,
I think the synth industry itself
at least they do
has been based on plagiarism, whether it's minimal or in your face. Everyone's copied something or other. So.
But one thing that's not really talked about with that is that it's usually top talked about from a moral
Yeah.
perspective, but at least here in the U.S., there are laws that allow for that. So you can have a patent for so many years, and then your competitors are able to then build on that idea. And it's good because it creates competition. So if a design has been out, they've made their money from it, and now they're going to have to innovate to keep into that market, those original manufacturers of it, and it allows other people to come in and take an idea that is good for the whole industry and build on it as well. And so, you know, you can't find something that's, you know, the first Fender amps, for instance, you know, they've been copied so many times, the old tube amps from the 50s and 60s, but they themselves were built off of RCA, you know, manuals. Like, here's a suggested circuit. Leo Fendo took that. Then you have Jim Marshall's like, hey, let's bring the Fender sound to Britain, but I don't have the same parts, but it's basically a 59 basement and a head. And again, that keeps going and keeps going, but we would never mistake Marshall for being a mistake.
No. And as Wagyu has said in the chat room, as they were saying in Jamie's stream earlier, nobody seems to lose their heads over clones if they cost $3,500.
Yes.
But when they're banging them out for $300, people start saying, "Oh, you can't do that." And it does, you know. I think there's a whole load of what's the word I'm looking for? People seem to forget a lot of things. The hate does seem to come to Behringer because they're Behringer, not because necessarily of what they're doing, because they have a history of doing stuff. I mean, they've been caught with their pants down. You know, the Mackie mix, was it the Mackie mixer that they cloned? And when you opened up the PCB, still had like Mackie written on it. It was one of those things. You know, that's blatant, that's stupid, and they've learned from that. So it seems they do learn, but they're I suppose they're like a petulant child in terms of the industry, and they're the new kids on the block, and they're learning, you know, about it and pissing some people off and getting praise from other quarters, and well, hopefully we'll all win. So
yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, end of the day, for me, you know, take away the whole sort of name, Behringer history, and all that type of thing, but you look at the products as is. We can't moan. They're fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I've got loads of them. Yeah. You know, starting with the DM12, and you know, they are the great products. They do what you want them to do. They're at a price which is, you know, was unheard of before. You know, even 5-6 years ago, what we were having like Volkers. You know, they were like that's the cutting edge of analog technology back again. With Volkers and things like that. Nothing like you know, what we've been getting with Pro Ones. I mean, that Pro One sounds amazing. I mean, I did this little multi-track song with it. I did the drums, bass, chords, and everything just with the Pro One. It sounded great together. Yeah.
That was fantastic.
Or anything like that. It was just like chuck it all together, and it sounded fantastic. So yeah. I mean, but then when you get the things about the ethos and all that nonsense behind it. There's some elements of it that, you know, the Kern thing and everything, that was a bit sort of over the top. I don't understand why they do that. But then you've got people who are like, regardless of any product, it could be the best product at CS80s. It could be like you could get 5 CS80s for like £2.50, and they'd still be going, no, it's Behringer. Yeah. So, you know, you can't please those people, and then you get the ones that do go into the I can't say. I was going to say virtue signaling, but I can't say because then I'll just be accused of being alt-right or whatever.
Oh, he's frozen. No. Oh no, Jamie's frozen.
It's gone.
Oh, right. Well, fingers crossed.
It's gone.
He did pause a little while back, but maybe he'll come back. Oh, Ben, any more opinions on the UBXA or Behringer in general? Ah, Jamie's back now.
I think.
All right.
Welcome back.
Hello.
I've got
I'm talking crap anyway, so don't.
I've got the MS 101, the Pro one, the DeepMind 12, and the X32 rack, and we use an X32. I think it's the compact. I think for live, you know, with Electro 80s. I really can't fault them. I just can't fault it. Yep. I've heard of a lot of people who's got like mini Moogs buying the new Poly D thing because they're almost like disposable live keyboards, aren't they? You know, you keep your nice mini Moog in the studio, you look after it with its dust sheets and everything, and throw the Poly D in the back of the van until it breaks. And there's that kind of way of looking at it as well.
I think that's really valid because
it's a less, because
we were saying,
less valuable.
Saying last week that Tears for Fears used to record in the studio with Fairlights, but on tour they took emulators out because they were cheaper, lighter, you know, and if they got bust, fine, we can go back and get another one because it's a lot less money than buying another Fairlight. But it's
that's the Behringer Odyssey.
Sorry,
can you hear this?
No.
Yeah.
You can't hear it? Oh, right.
No.
Well, that was all you could hear then. I was playing the sound, and you probably just heard go.
Yeah. That's
Never mind.
not a great advert.
No, I won't do that again.
Oh dear. But
it's one thing to think about.
It's brilliant.
One thing about the thinking about the economy like an ecosystem is that my own experience. So I've had synths for a long time, but I would use them for recording. I know what they did, and I was able to do stuff with them, but I wasn't really into it. And so what actually got me into it, and the story goes, I think I talked with Jamie about this, is that I bought a Behringer Model D, and I was like, man, I love the old analog synths. I could just, I just didn't want to put out the money for a mini Moog. But after playing that for some time, then the thing that the same year actually, was it? I don't remember. Maybe it was the year after. But I got so into that I went and bought an OB6 and then a Moog 1. So when you think about, Behringer they didn't get any money directly from me because I bought it used. But then I spent money with Dave Smith and with Moog. And so there's a whole lot of money went into the economy and to Moog because of Behringer gave me an entry point into, maybe I want to check this out a little bit more and get a little more serious about it. So it's been kind of a nice side effect that if with this ecosystem that there'll be people that might not have started with this, but they would start with something Behringer, try it. Oh, I'm really liking this. I'm going to add a sequential synthesizer or Moog or whatever, Roland.
And I wonder if the established synthesizer manufacturing industry sees it in that same way, because they see this new kid on the block, fairly new kid on the block, making budget but good analog synthesizers, and they think, well, we can't compete with that because we're not set up. We're a small company. Everything's kind of hand built. We haven't got the scales of production that they've got. So let's let them carry on building $300 budget analog synthesizers, and that's the gateway drug. That's what will then hook them in, and then they'll want to come and buy something a bit more, established or professional or longer lasting or whatever it might be. But I think it's interesting that we don't. I mean, I have spoken to a few manufacturers, not the big ones, but certainly some of the medium-sized ones, and they don't seem to have a massive opinion either way on the whole Behringer thing. Now, I don't know whether that's just them being diplomatic or whether it is because it doesn't really cut into what they do. Because if you, I think it was Ernst who used to be the head honcho at Propellerhead. I seem to remember, it might be one of those kind of internet legends, I remember him saying that he didn't mind people copying or cracking or using cracked versions of Reason. This was many years ago, because they were probably never going to buy it anyway. So he's not really lost anything. And if they want to use it properly, then they'll probably come, they'll come on board at some point. So he said, I'm not really seeing it as a a loss. I'm seeing it as potentially an entry point for those that really would want to pay for it, and those that don't, just will carry on using a cracked version, and they'll play to an audience of one, and that's it. So he doesn't really mind. I don't know whether that's a true thing or not. It was many years ago, but interesting.
Yeah, and I've heard musicians and bands say the same thing. Like, it may be the thing that gets people into our music. We're not saying that it's right or they want people to do it, but to recognize that it is something that they can potentially benefit from.
And I think, streaming, I think since streaming started, I remember 20 odd years ago, the early years of a decent internet that was beyond, 56 kilobytes per second. Once we started getting, half a meg connections, and you started seeing the streaming, the whole Napster, what was some of the others? I'm trying to remember. It's been so long now. But there was this raft of illegal downloading going on, and they thought, oh no, it's the end of the industry. And actually, what it turned out to do was inspire the streaming generation. And now people are streaming, and artists are still getting paid. They might not be getting paid so much because their contracts and maybe don't account for streaming properly just yet, but it gets them into it. I stream. I pay Apple Music subscription, and when I hear something on the radio, the first thing I do is I'll go and stream it. I'll go and get the album and stream it. If I like it, I'll go and buy it. Most of the time. Sometimes, if it's one of those things, I can take it or leave it. I'll leave it, maybe a few weeks and never really want it. But the amount of stuff I've bought because I've streamed is a massive amount of more than I wouldn't have bought it. So I think maybe it's the same sort of thing, which leads me on to our next topic. So
hold on before you go there. Just to add on to that, that's where Bandcamp has been really forward looking. To go on there and be able to stream an album for a few times and listen to it, like, do I like this, and then make a purchase and hear the entire thing, not 30-second snippets, is absolutely brilliant. And I bought albums because of that.
Exactly.
But
that 30-second thing is the only thing I don't like about Spotify, Apple Music, and all those others. Bandcamp, where you can stream the whole album, don't have to pay a thing, get it all. And then you want to buy, and you can buy, and the artist is getting paid more than they would if they'd done it through iTunes or whatever. And that's another thing that's come out of this whole global lockdown is I think Bandcamp's figures are going to go through the roof, because they did that whole day, didn't they, last Friday, where they waived everyone's fees, waived their fees on everyone's sales. And entire labels have gone through and just marked a whole bunch of stuff as name your price, and they've just they've drummed up a lot of business, a lot of goodwill, I think. So they've done really well. So anyway, we're talking about streaming and stuff, and that kind of brings me on to the next thing that I wanted to throw in. Ben's got a topic we'll come to, because we leave the best till last. But the first thing my hand has been hovering for the last month or two over the buy button.
Steady.
Over the buy button of Rolling Cloud. And I did the trial 2 or 3 times, using different email addresses. And when they did the special offer, did you try us and not buy us? Then come and try us again. So I did that, and now I've exhausted all my options. So I'm seriously thinking now, mainly because since the last time I tested or trialed it, they've added a whole bunch of stuff that I've not played with and that I would actually enjoy using. So I'm asking opinions of people, and it's very, very polarized. People love it or they hate it. There's very little in between. I've heard very few people say, well, it's all right, and it's either, oh yeah, it's brilliant, absolutely fantastic, buy it, or no, God, no, you can't, it's the spawn of the devil. So what do we think about subscription models? Now, Roland seemed to have, be doing all right through this. There are other subscription models like, is it East West, do a big sample library thing, and there's a few others coming. Well, what's everyone's general opinion on subscription stuff in music? Ben, you go first this time.
It's dangerous. I think it's dangerous because every time I see one, I think, "Oh, this is only $4.99 a month," and then 22 subscriptions down the line, I think, "Oh, this one's only it's a little bit more at $49 a month, but I'll still have that." Before you know it, you're paying like £700 a month on stuff that you think is an insignificant amount.
Yeah.
But with regard to Roland in particular, the Roland Cloud thing, that I've got mixed feelings about that. I think it sounds great. I think when they're asking so much money for it, though, it should look a bit better. I think it looks as though all the interfaces and that look as though they've come from Windows XP and almost. And I don't know. For a premium product, it should be absolutely spot on on every level. I know sound's the most important thing, but those graphics should be rescalable. They should be crisp and look exactly like the real things as well.
Yeah.
But that's what you're paying for, isn't it?
I did notice
that's it, really. I think that it sounds great. I think that if you compare the Roland Jupiter 8 virtual Jupiter 8 to the Arturia one, the Roland one is miles better than the Arturia one, in my opinion. And it probably the JV 1080 virtual thing, that sounds absolutely identical to the hardware.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the hardware. I'm scared of what else they're going to bring out because I don't want to. I don't want to start getting rid of everything. Please don't bring out a Roland Cloud Integra. Oh.
I wonder if any of the other big manufacturers like Yamaha or Korg. I mean, Yamaha seem to have avoided any kind of virtual instrument thing, and Korg have just got a handful of things. And I like the Korg stuff. I like the Wave Station. I like the M1. I've got the Poly 6 and the Monopoly as well. And I like, they sound amazing and they're really good to you. I think the interfaces are out of date, particularly with, if you're using them on a fairly large screen, it's just, they're not.
Well, they were one of the first virtual instruments to sound really good.
Yeah.
Those and Dave Spears stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They were some of the first that you thought, oh wow, this could, do away with this hardware virtual analog synth that I had. So I remember first getting that. But yeah, it's never been updated in terms of its interface. So, you need like 2 telescopes on each eye to see what the parameters are. Yeah. But the Roland thing, I actually have Roland Cloud. I actually pay for it. It works out about £18.50 a month. Now I got it because I did a bank patches for the System 8, so that was all of the synth engines on there, which are also compatible with the plugins. So the volumes aren't the same. So I had to buy it to be able to make sure they were working.
Right.
And I've bought it I've had it over a year now, and from that you get your own 2 licenses. Okay. But the thing is with that, you can say you've had it for one of them for 3 months. Sod this. You delete it, and you can own another one instead. It's not like once you bought it, that's it. You can't go back.
It's basically 2 licenses, not 2 individual products.
Yes, exactly. Two. And there's when it first started Roland Cloud, it was expensive for what you got on there, which wasn't a lot. And of course, they are very CPU intensive as well. Your little iMac would die playing more than one note. But at the same time, they've made it a little bit better, and the stuff that's on there now is amazing. I mean, ACB stuff, 808s, 909s as well, little drum machines, and all the SRX boards, and of course the ACB. So now it does actually make sense. But the only problem is, if you do.
No.
Oh, we lost him again.
And he always does it. He always stops in like a really animated pose.
Although he always looks like a boxer.
You're talking to me. Oh dear. Well, yeah. I mean, I've been really kind of like pausing. Oh, he's back again. He's back.
Oh,
I've been
we missed
lingering.
all the end of that.
And I look at it and I see actually what you get for your money. Because I'm thinking of just doing a year's license. Because I think Ben made a very good point, because it's like, it's like with TV. I mean, I've just got Disney Plus, so they did an offer for £50 for the year, but I pay monthly for Netflix. I pay annually for Amazon Prime, although that's slightly different because you get a whole bunch more of stuff rather than just the TV and film stuff. You get next day delivery free of charge and all this kind of stuff. So that's slightly different. But then I got my BT Sport, and I've got now I've got Disney Plus, and you just end up, where's it going to end? Because somebody else will bring another streaming service which will have exclusive content that you can't get anywhere else. Is that the next business model? Is it aggregation of streaming and subscription stuff going to be the next business model? Is somebody going to come along and make an offer to all these companies saying, let me offer this to the customers for one price?
Netflix for software. And,
that sort of thing.
I know what you mean.
So I don't know whether that's a thing or not. Whether but the thing that bothers me about subscription is what if. It's always about the what ifs. What if Roland, pull the plug for whatever reason? Roland aren't likely to go out of business. Who knows in these troubled times? But what if they pull the plug? What if they decide this is we're going to stop this? What's their plan? What's their exit plan for subscribers? Do they? I doubt very much. I've not read them, but I doubt very much that it says in the terms and conditions, we'll give you the software for free because we're going to stop providing it. No, they're not going to do that, because they're probably going to use the next vehicle to promote their wares. So what happens when it stops? And what's the outcome? Do we just end up printing everything to audio and just be done with it? Do they provide a year or so for you to wean yourself off and onto something else? Do they move you to the new system where there's new software to download, new plugins to put in place of the old plugins? Do they automate that process? Do they make it manual? There's a whole bunch of stuff there, but nothing's certain. And nothing in life is certain, but that always bothers me, that if I'm paying for something that I don't actually have and own, it's not like a magazine subscription, because you have a magazine subscription, you get a magazine every month and it lands on your doorstep, and that's mine, and you're never going to take that away from me. That's paid for. But with the software, it's different, and so that's so I'm not sure.
I'm a bit like that, because I have the Adobe account, so I've got the suite, and that's like what, £50 a month. So, and I only really use Premiere and what's the other one? The audio recorder, Audition. That's really all I use. But I've got other editors. I've got Blackmagic, Resolve.
No. Oh, there was something in the background.
I don't know.
It's gone again. No. Let's hope for a speedy return. Must be. It's grim up north, isn't it?
I'm up north as well.
Well, this is true.
Not quite as far.
He's back again. He keeps pausing.
All right.
That's all right.
Who was that comedian that used to go?
Norman Collier.
That's the one. That's me tonight. Yeah.
Our American friends will not understand what we're talking about here.
No. Do you know what? I think I'll probably bow out then, because my internet is really not playing today. So I'm going to go off in the corner. I'm going to go off in the corner and sulk.
Oh, then.
Oh.
No, I'm only joking. I'll catch you later.
Okay.
But I'll hopefully you'll.
He's gone again.
Oh.
Come back. So I'm not sure if he can hear us when he's gone or paused. Oh dear.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. He'll come back. I don't want to disconnect him until he gets a chance. He's back.
Oh, it's there.
I can hear you when I'm. It's like I'm calling out and nobody can hear me.
It's like
I'm going to get off because it was only. This wasn't really planned anyway for me, was it?
No.
I think I read me text from Chris just at 8 o'clock. So,
thanks ever so much.
Yeah, no, I'd love to be on.
Before you go,
one.
Jamie,
Yes,
could I just ask about the hair? I noticed that we both seem to have lost our locks.
Yeah, I used to actually shave it all, but my head. But I was getting all. It was growing at the back and the sides, but there it was saying, "No, I'm not going to grow." So I thought, you know what?
I ended up with just one strand hanging down here. So
yeah, it's not a great look, is it, mate? So no, I think I'm going to sort of give that one a miss. So I just whizzed it off, and that's it. I don't have to go to a hairdresser now.
This is it.
Yeah, people would ask, have conversations about where do you get your hair cut. I said, well, this naked guy cuts my hair in my bathroom, and usually throw them for a little bit there until they, figured it out.
We were wondering, what with this global lockdown. I actually had a haircut booked. So we have a hairdressers in our village. It's fantastic, and sometimes you have to sit with the old dears having a pink rinse, but they'll go and they do the entire family. And this was just before, I think, the big lockdown. And I said, I wonder if they'll still, let us go in. And they were absolutely fantastic. We just, washed our hands when we went in and we didn't touch anything. And they just did it and off we go. But I thought, what happens if we can't go to hairdressers? Those of us who are still blessed with some of the stuff up there. And you just got this vision of either people going around with really bad haircuts because they've been doing it themselves, or just people covered in hair, and we'll emerge from this like cavemen again. It's a scary thought. Anyway, Jamie, look, thanks ever so much for coming in, mate. Really appreciate it. And you
could join us.
He's frozen again.
Hopefully I might actually do some streams during. Have I gone?
No, you're there. You're there. Quick.
I might do some streams during the week, just sound design ones, and that's it. So
cool. Well,
might see you later.
Yeah, all right, shove them up on the Facebook page.
Yeah, okay.
All right, see you later.
See you later.
Bye. Just a reminder for anybody.
Indeed. Let's just hide Jamie up there, so he's gone, and let's just move Chris into the middle there. Again, Chris has gone all kind of. I don't know whether it's Skype or whether it's the software that I'm running here, but the cams just always seem to. So forgive us, folks, while I just kind of even us all out here, so we've got some equal real estate on the screen. That'll do for now. It's easy. Right, okay, so that's Roll and Cloud discussed. Now, excuse me. How about now?
So I'm not sure if they heard what I said, but as soon as we get confirmation that sound is back, I'll plug Jamie's sale again, and Mark's as well.
I know what it is. I know the audio should be back now.
Okay.
I'm still getting used to it.
Can you guys confirm our? Can you hear Ben and myself?
Hello, 1, 2.
They have to wait.
Check.
All done. Yeah. Wagoo's figured it out, but we should need a few more seconds. Jamie left. The audio is back. Yep. There we go. We're in. Okay, plug in.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if I was muted during this time or not, but I just wanted to remind everybody the what I shared at the beginning of the show, that Jamie Geosynth has a sale going on right now for 15% off of all of his sound sets. So, and he's got a lot of synthesizers that he's done sound sets for. So please be sure to go check some out. This is a good time to support musicians. Another one also, Mark Barnes, which is in our chat room as Angel Star Scotland, has been doing some really fantastic work. Latest on the wave state, he just released a video that is amazing. Mark, I think you were not on yet, but I was telling people, like, I don't want to be tempted by the Wave State, but you're tempting me. So please go check that out, because he's releasing sound sets for the Wave State, and he's already got some for the it's the Minilog XD, right? I think yeah. So
Mark's
you guys
bank,
check those out.
It's the first Wave State preset bank that I've seen go up. Now maybe I'm not looking, but sorry, you can hear my wine pouring here. But isn't Mark's bank like the first commercial bank, or one of them?
I would imagine so, because I haven't seen too much of other people doing anything. But whether it's the first or not, they sound good.
Yeah, they do.
They sound really good.
And the little demo he did with his good wife as well, set them off, because it's nice. It's all very well hearing like a synthesizer demo, and it's just a single patch, especially if if the keyboard player is good. It really does sell it. But then when you've got something else to kind of just set it off against, I thought that worked really well. So I'd like to see more of that.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
That's not bad. That. Yeah. Let's do a virtual ka-ching.
Ka-ching.
Guinness red wine and some muddy beer.
So I've got some Founders Backwoods Bastard. This is a kind of a dark ale aged in oak bourbon barrels from Microbrewery.
Very nice. Yes, I think the general consensus in the chat room is the Wave State is certainly drumming up some interest. But Ben, you've got a Hydrasynth there, haven't you?
I have. I got this as the replacement, really, for the desktop version. I realised that one of the main reasons I wanted it was for the poly aftertouch and the ribbon controller. And so after my initial order of the desktop version, I kind of went in a mad panic and got on to my friend Aaron Scorby at PMT and said, quick, can I change my mind? I really want the keyboard version. I'm so glad I did, because I think that's for anybody who's got the desktop version, I'm sure you're having a great time with it. But for me, that poly aftertouch and that ribbon controller, it just makes you play differently. It brings something out of you when you're playing it that I don't know. It's really good.
And the expression is something that has been missed off a bunch of synthesizers over the years, in my opinion. That why companies still don't put just channel aftertouch on every synthesizer is beyond me. That should just be a standard. Channel aftertouch should be as standard as putting a set of keys.
Bare minimum.
Yeah.
And the Roland System 8, it ends up being one of my favorite synthesizers. I play it. I've probably spent more hours on it than any other synth I've had, except for the Moog 1, which I've spent a lot of time on. But why no aftertouch? But here again, where is the market going to go? And when you have ASM and Behringer putting out poly aftertouch, it's now raising the bar for other manufacturers. Like, we got to get this. So maybe Fatar will get to working on it, because there maybe wasn't a demand for it before, but now everybody's like, let's have it.
Yeah. I mean, when I bought my DX5, the only thing that's wrong with it is the aftertouch, and I'm hoping it's just the strip. I say I'm hoping it's probably that keyboard, that 76-note keyboard, was used on a whole raft of stuff from Yamaha and Korg over a period of about 10 years. Can I find a replacement? Can I? And it's doing my head in. I think I found one, but they won't guarantee that it works, and therefore they won't refund it. And it's in the States. It's only like $35, but I need to know that it's going to work. But back to the story. That's the only thing that doesn't work properly on there. There's a few keys you have to press really hard, and it's awful. I miss it. So what I end up doing is I end up using like the DX11 that I've got over here, which has the aftertouch, and then over MIDI it works absolutely fine. But the downside is that's a beautiful keyboard to play. The actual feel of the keys is just so nice. So I really need to get that sorted.
One thing I wanted to ask Ben about. So I have the desktop Hydrosynth, but I played the keyboard version before I got it. And any reason I would normally just get the keyboard version, but I got this one so cheap. I wasn't going to get it yet anyway. So, and plan to maybe get the Behringer DS80 when it comes out to control it, because I'll have the ribbon and aftertouch, poly aftertouch. But how do you like, after spending time on the Hydrosynth keybed, how are you liking it? Is it okay? How's the aftertouch on it?
I love it. I love it. I actually started off with the Hydrosynth in this position over here, and now it's took up this position here, which is right as the center of everything, because I found that like the Arturia stuff does respond to the poly aftertouch as well, and that's like really good. So like messing about with the CS80, you can nice. Do that with this and that. But unfortunately, I can't get the ribbon working to control the ribbon in the CS80V. Ken Flux Pierce said that it is possible, but I haven't spent enough time with it yet. So hopefully I will get there in the end. But it's a brilliant controller as well. Yeah. It's really good. I hope Omnisphere make a template for it for that hardware integration, because it'd be fantastic.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There also have been talk that they're going to make the Moog 1 one of the synths for a template too. So
wow, that'd be amazing. Yeah.
It doesn't have a ribbon controller, but it has an XY pad and some other stuff. So
yeah.
See, that's you've got that. One thing I love about my Prophecy is the expression capability. You know, so it's got the aftertouch, it's got the ribbon, and it's got the extra wheel, as well as the modern pitch bend. And as Ben really made a really good point that it makes you play differently, and it has an effect on that. I know for a fact. I mean, I can't play. I can string a few chords together, and that's about it. But I think it's also because the Prophecy is a mono synth, so you can't accidentally. It's very rare that you can accidentally sort of make a wrong. Pressing it in slightly different, on a slightly different key and get it mixed up. But I actually think I sound quite good when I play the Prophecy, and it's purely because it's the synth that's got that combination of controllers that can express. And it's the other thing I really love about FM synthesis is that it is expressive because of the synthesis method that they use, that you can tie velocity into timbre changes, and it makes it so much more expressive. And keyboard players have always been shortchanged in the expression department. We get these wonderful things like the Osmos stuff, and maybe the Roly C boards and things, but they're not really they're kind of niche products. They're quite expensive. Whereas Yamaha nailed it years ago with the GX1, where you not only had polyphonic aftertouch and velocity, but you also had the left and right in the key. And how many people do you watch who play a synthesizer, and even their left hand is modulating, but they're still wiggling? They still wiggle their finger because it's a natural human thing to do to get that expression. But we're not doing it, so come on, give us that kind of level of expression. I know that that in turn brings production costs up, and you'd end up paying for it. But the more people that introduce it, the cheaper the technology gets. Yeah. So let's do this, guys. Come on.
I'll tell you, like coming from guitar, where it's extraordinarily expressive. I mean, two guitarists picking up the same rig. I think what was it? I mean, there's been a number of these stories, but like. Was it Brian Setzer picking up Eddie Van Halen's, playing through Eddie Van Halen's rig, and there's been a couple instances of people doing that, and they I don't sound anything like him because it's so expressive that you listen to that musician, their touch, their feel on an instrument, whereas, we can all hit a key and pretty much sound the same unless, I mean, I can't hit the next key as fast as the next guy, but just hitting a key, it all sounds the same until you start adding these expression features. So For me, I felt really disconnected when I started because I'm just like hit it like a piano. I'm like, But then getting those where you can dig in where I'd normally bend and then add a little bit of vibrato or something, and being able to do that in a fairly coordinated way because it's intuitive to hit the key and then press into it in vibrato.
Yeah. It's exactly. I mean, the Prophecy changed my whole view on keyboards as an expressive instrument. You know, that for the first time combined, you know, truly expressive sounds with truly expressive hardware, and then allowed me to actually sound half decent. And I like anything that makes me sound better because I'm shit. So that's cool stuff. And I'd love to have a go on a Hydra synth, you know, purely for those extra expression controls. And you know, I'd like to see, you know, we talked last week about the rise of digital again. You know, there's some amazing, you know, with wavetables for a start, you can get all sorts of, you know, evolving stuff, and you can control that with expressive hardware and FM as well. So let's, you know, hope that we see some more expression stuff coming that way.
Well, and it probably doesn't help that the one expressive innovation that was most popular in the last 20 years or something was the D-beam.
Oh.
It's like, hey, we've given you more expression, but you don't really seem to want it, so screw you. You're not going to get aftertouch on the System 8 now.
Yeah.
I saw I see Heaven 17 quite a bit, and Martin Ware, bless him. I mean, I know that there's very little live playing going on stage, but he stood there and he still has his V-Synth GT with the D-beam, and he's doing all of this, and we're like, you're not fooling anyone, Martin, and you don't look good, because, you know, when you get to those notes where you want to, you know, kind of really express, and you're going like this, and we're all going, whoa, stop. Bring that hand down again, Martin, quick.
That's why you got to do it like Wagyu. He says, that's why I like D-beams too. If you get stuck, can just stick on an elbow or your face in front of the D-beam. So,
yes. I mean, it was an interesting concept that I don't think it caught on, because we're keyboard players, and so, you know, moving a hand, I don't know, maybe on a small, you know, kind of monophonic solo synth, but I've never tried one. I wouldn't dare.
Yeah, it's not that great, but I've got the V-Synth here, and that's got a D-beam on it, and I used to take this out live. I've got an Apex stand. I used to have the V-Synth on the bottom and the Virus TI2 on the top, where I couldn't get the distance.
Oh, right.
I couldn't get the distance enough that the Virus wasn't triggering the D-beam on the V-Synth.
Oh, no.
So you can disable it, but it kind of rendered it useless at the same time.
Yeah, nobody's really gotten the right moves down for it. I mean, you think back to like Jimmy Page in the 70s, where he'd have the theremin over next to his amps, and he'd go over and he'd be doing this, and it looked really cool. Yeah.
But that's the thing is, with the theremin, right? You see the theremin, you see people waving their hands around, and you understand the connection between this and the hardware. But with a D-beam, half the time the audience is going, he's having a fit. You get him his medication, he's just going like this, because there's nothing apparent. Only we know that he might be controlling a D-beam. I think maybe as a piece of showmanship, it's vastly overrated. So, yeah.
It would have been better if it had a beam of light coming out of it, wouldn't it? At least.
I think somebody mentioned Jean-Michel Jarre's laser harp, which again, you know, we know it looked great, but you're not fooling anyone, JMJ. That shit ain't real. Although there are people who have developed. There's a Facebook page called Harp Laser, HARPE LASER, and they're a team of guys that have actually created an actual laser harp with actual lasers, actually MIDI triggering stuff.
Wow.
Because I'm not going to incriminate myself here, because saying they're probably the first to do that, but they probably are the first to do that, because everything else has been a sham. But yeah, I mean, it looks great. But again, with the laser harp, like you say, you could see what was going on. You understood the correlation between, you know, Crazy French Man with Michael Jackson gloves, and it looked and sounded incredible, you know. But we all know that it was some guy behind with the Synth X going.
It's a show, isn't it? That's it. But But yeah, because you always get things like do 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 do, and then do do do. There's no like kind of parity.
No, I mean there were never enough laser beams for the notes. You know, if he had 12 laser beams, then maybe I can understand that he's doing it, and then maybe a foot controller to drop it down or up an octave. But he got 5. Was it 5 beams? You're not playing all those notes. Come on. Oh dear. Here's a good question for you. When you go to see a live show, particularly a known act, whether it's a solo act or a group, are you like me and that you spend virtually all of the time doing what Ben's doing, stroking his chin and just looking at the gear and trying to figure out what they've got, how they're using it, what's going on there? Because that's what I do, and it spoils literally every gig that I go to, especially for my wife, because she's there getting into it, and I'm like, how's he making that come out of that? And what's the deal there? And what's that? I can't make out that thing he's got on top. What synth is that?
Yeah.
So I remember the first concert that happened to me. I had been playing guitar for maybe a year or so, and I went with this was like freshman year of high school. Went with my girlfriend to see Paul McCartney play, and we're there, and we went with her aunt, and they're dancing and singing the songs, and I'm just like, okay, so he's playing it there, not over there, like I thought it was. Okay, yeah, and so the whole time you got done, she's like, we were such huge Beatles fans. She's like, I don't understand. Why didn't you like it all? You said, so are you kidding? This was great. I loved it. Like, but you weren't singing or dancing or anything. I'm like, no, I was just taking it in. I was just enjoying it, learning.
I've got a friend who's a front of sound house engineer, and he does a band. There isn't lots of bands, but one of the ones he always does is The Darkness, who I'm a massive, massive fan of. And the first time I went to see The Darkness, he got me into the front of house sound area, and I've always kind of looked at them but never really paid much attention. I spent the entire gig watching him on the soundboard, because it's, my God, these guys, they really do earn their keep. They're literally playing this thing live to compensate for everything that's going on around them. And how's he doing that? And what's that for? And what does this mean? And I just, my memories of that gig are pretty sketchy, because I was just looking at his hands on this. I think it was a Midas or something. It was just amazing. But who did I see recently? I think it was Hot Chip. And obviously they've got a lot of technology on stage and lots of different synths do it. And there's the two guys, I forget their names now, but they've got almost like a bench, and on this bench are all these little like Volkers and modular stuff, and then one of the guys has got a massive modular setup that he messes around with, and I'm just like, what is that you've got? And I'm really trying to figure it out, and I keep reminding myself, you're here to enjoy the bloody show, but I'm just terrible. And then I always notice the technical errors or the mishaps, and then I get kind of upset that I've noticed them when I should have really been paying. So it's, I'm terrible. Don't ever go to a gig with me.
There's the other side of the coin as well, where there's this like kind of trend now to drop your keyboards into boxes so they look like organs or something on stage, and that's really frustrating, because for somebody who wants to see loads of stuff, you've just got like one white box or something. I remember watching Human League, and that's all it was. It was these 3 identical white things. I think Ultravox first started that off, as far as I'm aware.
Howard Jones does it as well. Howard Jones has got his entire rig has been fitted into white cases. They look like they've got multiple fairlights on stage, but everything's just I think he's a big Roland user. So they've got him and Robbie Bronneman, and they've all got this stuff all in case, and you have no idea what's going, because they've got lights in the things as well. And I think maybe at the end of the day that's good, because then if I can't figure it out, then maybe I'll just focus on the music and do that. But the other one that annoys me, doesn't annoy me, but I'd love to know what's in the thing, is Stephen Wilson, and he mostly plays guitar, but he does have something on stage, and I'm assuming it's a controller, but it's in like it's only small, so it must be something like nothing more than a 49 key controller in a unit that looks like my mother-in-law. She's got one of those things with the pedals that pump the air at the bottom. They've got a very small keyboard. Yeah. It looks like something like that, or a desk or something.
Yeah.
And for the life of me, I've seen this guy at the Albert Hall any number of times, and when I was up in the Gods one night, because it's the only tickets I could get, and I thought, I'll be able to see it, but because I was so high up, it was so damn small. So I'd love to find out what that is inside that case. But gear spotting is well, I saw Gary Newman, and I was very lucky to. I mean, I've seen him a number of times, but I think it was the last time I saw him. The support act were friends of mine, so they said, "Oh yeah, come backstage." It was great. So I watched half the gig from in the audience, and then I went to the monitor desk by the side of the stage and watched him from the side, and just got the full view of everything, and that was just amazing. That's really cool, because he's exceptional live still to this day. You just the one thing you watch at a Gary Newman concert is his hair. How does it stay on his head? That's an exceptional weave.
Yeah. Talking about gigs, what's your best live gig experience, either playing or watching as a member in the audience, and the worst?
I think the best. I've seen Prince about 7 or 8 times, and just blew me away every time. And it's very difficult to top. But then I saw Peter Gabriel about 6 years ago when he did that whole So tour, the kind of revival of that, and that was pretty spectacular. But I think also I was just incredibly excited to see Peter Gabriel live, because I'd never seen him live before, and he is, in my opinion, he's a god. So I think but that wasn't so much a grandiose light show, but a wonderful blend of musicians and a little bit of stagecraft, because he's got these lights that look like triffids, and they kind of they were all part of the performance. It was just mind blowing. And the worst, I don't know. I try not to go to gigs. See, I'm a huge Sleaford Mods fan, and one of their shows is they walk on stage with a backpack, they get the laptop out, plug it in, press play. That's it. There's no nothing. It's just 2 guys on the stage with a laptop, and it's the most energetic thing that you've and life affirming thing you've ever seen. But no, I can't think of any really truly awful gigs. No, I struggle with that because I love gigs so much, so it's kind of difficult. I'll think of one, but Chris, you go.
For bad gigs, usually it would always have to do with the sound man. Something going wrong, or them not knowing what was wrong, and then me having to figure it out for them. But as far as good concerts that I've been to, 2 of my favorite, I saw David Gilmour in 2006, I think. And he had, it was almost entirely Pink Floyd members. Richard Wright and Dick Perry and everybody was there. And so they did his album at the time on an island. And then the second half of it, they just stopped, like, we're gonna head off for 20 minutes and then we'll be back. And then just walked off. And then 20 minutes later, they did all Pink Floyd. And so hearing Echoes in its entirety live with David Gilmour and Richard Wright and all of them was really one of the high points. And either that or somebody probably not familiar to Synthesis, but there's a guitarist named Eric Johnson, and fantastic guitar player. Well, either my first or second favorite, but he did for a while kind of a more of a Cream type thing, like bluesy rock, and just such a fantastic player that it was one of those gigs. trip out over his gear, but then his technique and his the soulful playing. One of the most beautiful concerts I've been to. But those two are probably what stand out in my mind as just being transcendent experiences. I mean, these days, like I go and play a gig here and there, but I'm not gigging like I did where I used to do it every week. And I guess with YouTube now, like I don't feel like I'm missing as much because with the big bands, I just have I would rather go see, and I still go see local bands play. A friend of mine plays locally a lot, and I go see his band. But as far as seeing somebody big, it's like, man, I can pause it on YouTube and check out what they're doing or some lick or something. So I tend to do that more these days. But I'm an old man, so.
Well then, Ben, you asked it. That's your time to answer.
Well, funnily enough, my best gig I've ever been to, I think, technically and everything, was Peter Gabriel. It was the Secret World tour.
Was a great tour, that was, yeah.
Yeah. I saw him in Sheffield Arena, and it was just mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. To see the band like climb into a suitcase at the end of the set and then walk off stage with them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not daft, I know what was going on, but it's still visually brilliant, you know.
Magical, yeah.
But then, one of the worst live experiences I've ever had was Peter Gabriel at Liverpool Echo Arena, the tour that you're on about.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, Gabriel was fantastic, but the large group of Scouse men that were behind me, who were absolutely smashed out of their brains, singing along. You've never heard Mersey Street until it's sung Mersey Street in a sentence. And now I can't listen to it anymore. Mersey Street. And dead loud, dead loud behind me, completely ruined the gig. But yeah.
I saw Gary Newman at the Forum in Kentish Town a few years ago, and we were late there. We got it was just like general tickets, so you just got in and went where you went, and we were late for some reason, like trains or something, and so we ended up rolling in. And the only place we could, because I'm only 5'6" and my wife's much the same, so we always get the tall bastards in front of me, but the only place I could get was right at the very back at the top in the circle area, and they got these bits of wood that were like 6 inches off the ground. It gave me just enough, but most of the gig was just like looking at, trying to find a gap between people's heads. Yeah. Gary was, epic as ever, but those sort of things ruin it. And I'm a huge Scritti Politti fan. And about, 15 years ago, he starts playing live again after not having played for 25, 30 years. He starts playing live again. And one of the first gigs he did was at the Latitude Festival, which is just down the road from us here. And I bought tickets to go and see them at the UEA in Norwich. And they cancelled that gig because they got the offer of Latitude. And I kicked off on MySpace, I think it was, on their page saying, I feel terrible that you've, cancelled this and I can't afford a festival ticket. So their keyboard player got in touch with me, Rodri, and said, you can have my weekend pass if you like. I thought, oh, great. So we go along and we find the tent that Scritti are playing in. They're headlining this tent on the first day. And we go in there and we watch a few of the acts on lower down on the bill, and it's all very good. As soon as Scritti Politti come on, half the audience are like, play whatever, their latest, their greatest hit single from 1984, not the new albums or anything like that. Play this, play that, and of course they won't play it. And then every time it's, shut up, it's So most of the time, people spoil gigs for me, not the artists, it's the audience. I hate audiences.
Yeah.
I go to gigs a lot.
Usually that's
if it wasn't for the audience, I'd have really enjoyed this.
Yeah, the case for me. One time where one concert that was one of the best and one of the worst was My Bloody Valentine. I don't know if you guys remember them, like shoegaze from the early '90s, and so they, it'd been whatever 17 years or something since they had released an album, and so they started touring. Like, yes, let's go see them. So me and two buddies went to go see them in this small, like local city sports center. So it was not like a stadium size or anything, but we're all the way at the back in the cheap seats, and it was so loud. I mean, it was. I've never been in a situation that was so loud as that band playing. That, I mean, people were getting physically ill and walking out in the back.
Wow.
It was incredibly loud. I mean, it must have been like 130, 140 or so.
That's not good.
Yeah, I mean, I actually walked out during the last song because, like, man, if somebody's going to ruin my hearing, it's going to be me, not him.
Yeah. The tall person in front of you thing. I was watching Ultravox, and there was this tall guy in front of me, and it was really getting on my nerves. And in the end, like, I just ended up tapping him on the calf. And, I said, "Excuse me, can you just move over a little bit?" And it was Phil Oakey.
Oh no,
Phil Oakey, is it? Yeah. I got my photos up with him after.
He is tall.
Yeah, he looked mortified as well, having his photos up.
I've seen him at Synthfest most years. He goes because obviously I think he still lives in Sheffield.
Yeah,
and he'll always turn up on loading day, so he can get a sneaky peek at everything. But yeah, he's a character. He's one of those, you can't deny him, everything he's achieved, but he doesn't need to be so confident about it, if you know what I mean. But no, he's a lovely bloke, I'm sure. But yeah, tall people. I went to see Depeche Mode at the O2 Arena in London. Forget which tour it was. And I went there. I'd not seen them at a big arena like this before. And I got there what I thought was reasonably early, sort of like mid-afternoon. I thought if we get there mid-afternoon, the O2, the arena's in the middle, but around the outside of it, you've got restaurants and bars. And I thought, we'll just get there, we'd have something to eat, and we'll get there in plenty of time and get a good place. Not knowing that the Depeche Mode faithful, who are probably the most fanatical fans ever of any band, they turned up like 2 weeks before and had been camping outside the thing. And so by the time we got there, the floor area, which was where we got our tickets, was like 3/4 full. So in the end, I said to the wife, "Look, we'll go and stand by the front of house desk, because that's where you're guaranteed to pretty much get the best sound." And so we went and stood there, and then there's some lanky streak of piss, about 8 foot tall, skinny, with a big leather jacket and a pint glass in his hand that kept going up and down like this and spraying everywhere, just come stand like bolt in front of me. And there was just nothing I could do about it. I stood on the railings, got told to get off by security. It was just so the next time I went to see them, I got a comfy seat upstairs, and just like an old man, I was like this.
And happy.
Yeah.
Of course, now if you can actually see over the person, like, you've got to see over their phone too.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is it's horrendous. What gig was it? Pet Shop Boys. I went to see the Pet Shop Boys at their warm up. They did like a 200 ticket warm up thing before they did their Hyde Park show earlier. Or I think it was the next day. And there was loads of signs around saying no cameras, no cameras, no cameras. But of course, people don't bother with that, and they got the phones out. Security was shit hot on the night. And after they'd done their first 2 or 3 songs, and then it was the first time that Neil had engaged the audience, he very politely said, "Look, no cameras, because we want everything to be a surprise for tomorrow, so we don't want set lists leaking out. We're going to do some nice, some cool stuff, and we want the surprise to be." And everyone put their phones away, and the gig went on, and everybody had a great time. And the same thing with Kate Bush. I was dead lucky to get tickets to her first night when she did her thing in, was it 2014? And she had expressly said, no photos, no filming, nothing. And it was pretty strictly policed, but pretty much everyone obeyed. And so that's all. I think all you have to do nowadays is just put your foot down as an artist and say, look, just enjoy, live in the moment. We'll release a DVD at the end of this, and you can then watch it over and over again in high definition and surround sound. Not because they put the cameras up like this, and it's usually a bit shaky, and the exposure goes all over the place. And then as soon as the bass kicks in, there's no chance of picking any audio up.
Yeah.
Do you know what would be a good idea there? Is if the ticket had a code on it for the gig, and when you got home, that let you log into a live stream of the gig that you were at. Like, not live stream because it would have passed, but you know what I mean? It recorded live. Then everybody who goes knows that it is being recorded in some way, the actual one you're at,
and you can go and remember that individual experience.
Yeah,
that's a great idea.
There's a company that does. Is it Live Nation? No, not Live Nation. They're the ticket people. There's a company that does that, and an artist has to recruit them to come and do it. Peter Gabriel did it for that So tour, the back to front thing.
Right.
And you could buy every gig after the show. Literally, it went online after the show by about an hour or so. There was a very small delay, and then afterwards you could buy every single gig on CD, 2 CDs in individual packaging with the date stamp on it, and if the set list changed, the set list was printed differently. You could even buy the whole collection, so you could have every concert in the tour in a box if you're that obsessive about it. But at least, because I went to see him at the O2 and they filmed it for the Blu-ray release, so I've got the audio CD of the night I was there, and I've got the Blu-ray of the night I was there. So there it is, it's perfect, But I know every artist doesn't do that. But yeah, it would be great if all you got to do is
maybe about 15 years ago, Pearl Jam did that for an entire tour where my buddy who's a huge fan, he's got a CD of every single gig they did that year. Same thing. Yeah. Really, I thought it was really an interesting idea, and it was pretty forward thinking at the time.
Yeah. Because there are some bands that do different sets, quite different sets on the same tour, or they might have special guests. Like again, I'll go back to Stephen Wilson. A couple of years ago, he did a gig at the 3 gigs at the Royal Albert Hall. And each night he had different guests, and they were really good guests, because obviously he's Stephen Wilson, so he was getting all sorts of drummers and guitarists and singers in, and no one night was the same. And I booked one night and got it, and it was fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but I would have liked the night before because he had Matt Berry, who's you guys in America know he's a comedian and a superb musician as well. And I would have loved to have seen him, but unfortunately that's lost in time and never to be recovered. So it's a real shame. But it would have been nice if they did something like that.
I just wanted to ask you, Robbie, before we go to the next thing. I noticed that a lot of the things that you mentioned, a lot of the artists, it was Peter Gabriel was one, Kate Bush was another, the Pet Shop Boys was another, and Scritti Politti was another. I was just wondering that all those, as far as I'm aware, they're all pretty famous for using the Fairlight. And I wondered whether your love of the Fairlight comes from liking them, or your love of them comes from the Fairlight.
What came first, the chicken or the egg?
What came first, the music or the,
do you know, I have asked myself that question. Do I like these bands because of what they're using, or is it just because they're using that instrument that I like those bands? And I think it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. I think I love the Pet Shop Boys, whatever they do. I love Kate Bush, whatever she does. I mean, her non-Fairlight albums are just as good, and the same with Peter Gabriel. The fact that they use them, I think, might be indicative of their stature, that they could afford to use one. And I think if you like any artist that was pretty popular in the 1980s or 90s, they'll have probably used a Fairlight somewhere along the way. So I don't know. It does. It's like when I first discovered that Trevor Horn was behind a whole bunch of people that I didn't realise. I kind of in the 90s, I didn't really pay much heed to Trevor Horn. And then I realised, I really like Seal. Oh, look who's produced Seal. That's Trevor Horn. And, I really like that. And, who produced that? Oh, that was Trevor Horn. And why do I... Is it because I tune into that? Because I've loved his production style for years. And I can still pick it out even if I don't know that it's him. It just... I gravitate to it. I don't know. It's... Yeah. I think my love of the Fairlight started mostly when I saw my favourite musicians using it. Not because of what the Fairlight did, it just looked damn cool, and I want one of those. And then you get to realise what it does, and I guess it enabled them to produce some fantastic music. But I don't know. I think it is a chicken and egg. I don't really know. There is a which came first, but it's a good point. Good point. So you had this thing about inspiration, didn't you, Ben? You were gonna like non-synth musicians.
I think that was Chris, wasn't it?
Was it? I can't remember.
Yeah. So, let me ask it, and I'd be curious to hear what everybody in the chat room says also. So, obviously, we're talking about synthesizers for the most part, but would be curious to hear what are the most influential musicians who aren't synthesis for each of you guys, and then also the people in the chat room.
Go on, Ben.
What do you think? Which of you want to start us off?
Go, Ben.
Oh.
On the spot.
I kind of... I always have like I kind of always gravitate towards bass players for some reason. I really admire bass players. I think it's such an instrument that it must get to the point where you're learning it and you think, I'm getting the hang of this. And then once you've got the hang of it, it's like, I can't really do that much with it. It's like all me synth playing mates are knocking out these full Kraftwerk sounding albums. My guitarists have got like Rammstein stuff going on. And I'm just doing like a Pino Palladino album. Like that's all I can do.
Yeah, but
so it takes real. I think it takes real dedication to master the bass to the levels that some of these people do. And somebody like Mick Karn out of Japan, it is. Well, Mick Karn out of like everything.
Yeah, just Mick Karn.
was so good that like you can't like listen to the way he plays and not be blown away by it, and not like look at your own kind of techniques and think, can I do that with keyboards that he's done with bass? Can I create a style just totally all of my own? So from that respect, Mick Karn, I think, definitely.
What about Mark King?
Mark King as well. He took that slap thing and really made it his own, didn't he? And like when you're listening to that Level 42 stuff, you can't tell what's a sequencer and what's him. It's like it's insane. He's playing, his timing, everything. Yeah. So I've got a lot of love for bass players.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Definitely bass.
Nice.
I think I said last week that Paul McCartney was the guy that I always used to pretend to be when I was miming to the Beatles in my bedroom. But I think for me, because I'm a drummer, that's my instrument that I play. If I say take a synth out and play live, I wouldn't do it because I can't. But with drums, that's my instrument. So I've always had a lot of time for drums and drummers who are more musical than just a four to the floor stuff. So people like Stuart Copeland, who's a massive drumming hero of mine, Phil Collins, who's an incredibly musical drummer, because not only is he technically gifted, but the way he tuned his kit was just unbelievable. I've actually, because I use Superior Drummer with my E-drum kit, and they've actually got a Phil Collins kit in there, and that came with Superior Drummer 3. And when I found that, I rarely use anything else because it's such a musical kit. He uses concert toms, so they're all kind of tuned, and it's just lovely. There's a guy called Menage who plays with all sorts of people. Peter Gabriel mostly, and he's one of those
Menage,
drummers that it's like jazz. It's not what he plays; it's what he doesn't play that gives it the feel and the swing. So for me, it's drummers, like that. Dave Grohl's another one. I have a huge man crush on Dave Grohl. I'd love to hang out with Dave Grohl. He's a big hero of mine because he seems a genuine human being that is also just sickeningly gifted and in every respect. I just hate him but love him so much for it. So yeah, drummers. I think those kind of drummers.
What about you, Chris?
Yeah, for me, I won't say any guitarist because I could talk for hours about guitar players that are my favorite, and that's the instrument that I'm best at. But honorable mention, I have always loved John Bonham's drumming and his sound. It's big and swampy and just love it. And then on the other side of the spectrum, I mean, somebody like Neil Peart or Jimmy Chamberlain, they're just so different. But the thing that I really gravitate to the most would probably be bass players outside of guitarists. And similar, on the spectrum, I like melodic bassists.
Yes.
There's a lot of movement, and so of course the kind of mid to late Beatles era, Paul McCartney, John Paul Jones. One that's less known, Robert DeLeo, the Stone Temple Pilots, who sounds like a cross between McCartney and John Paul Jones. I like them. Growing up, the Red Hot Chili Peppers were, back in the, even back in the Blood Sugar Sex Magic days. When I first started playing bass guitar, I was like, man, this guy is. It's not that there are other, there's the Victor Wootens and Marcus Millers and stuff that are great, but those melodic bass players are the ones that really move me. When you have a great bass line that complements the vocals and yet still stays tight with the drums, that really does it for me.
John, I think we talked about this last week, and we talked specifically about bass players, and one bass player that I always think gets overlooked is John Taylor from Duran Duran. Because you think Duran Duran are this kind of 80s new wave, new romantic synth pop band, but they're a rock band, pure and simple. They were a Roxy Music covers band to start with, and everything else they did kind of followed. And John Taylor's bass playing is just phenomenal, and he gets virtually no credit. When people list off great bass players, nobody mentions John Taylor, and I think that's an absolute travesty. Because his technique, the use, his speed, the fact that he can, he moves from plucked to slapped to fingered to picked effortlessly. It's just if you listen to Rio's bass line just on its own, I'm sure there's an isolated track somewhere on YouTube. It's just stunning, and he really doesn't get the credit he deserves. And those are the kind of players I tend to really like, is those ones that people don't normally say. It's like Dave Gamson from Scritti Politti, or from that kind of this successful Scritti Politti era. His keyboard skills are just incredible, and his programming skills are just. I mean, he's all over some great hit records from after his Scritti years. He's just like. If you go and Discogs and just type in David Gamson and then just look at all the different artists he's credited on, and nobody really nobody would pick out that name as being a really influential player or pro. His programming, Cupid and Psyche 85. I used to say to everyone, if you want to hear the best sounding sequenced album ever, listen to that album. And for years, I just thought it was sequenced because it sounded, solid and tight, and there was, it was machine-like. And then he did an interview with Dave Spears, and they were talking about it, and he said, we barely touched the sequencer because this was 1984, and there was, MIDI latency was all over the shop, and we had some stuff on Page R that was, we used some elements there, but literally all we did was we put a track down on the Linn drum, and then the drummer played that over and over and over until they got it on the beat, throughout the whole track. Then we'd bring the next guy in. He was the guitar player. Then he'd have to go through until we got it. A bit, Steely Dan type thing. Just over and over until you get it spot on. And we made it sound like a sequence record because that was what we were after. But the technology still hadn't caught up with us yet. And all of a sudden, that this one image of or understanding of how an album was put together is blown out of the water and replaced with something even more awesome. And it just blew me away. That's still, that's my Desert Island album every day of the week.
One of the interesting things for me has been, as far as synthesis goes, is some of my favorite synth tracks that were not done by synthesis or keyboard, or keyboard players. So, I mean, Pink Floyd is a longtime favorite, and a lot of a number of their most famous synth parts were done by Waters or Gilmour, not Wright. And I've always thought it was interesting to see how musicians crossed over and why do I like Rush? I mean, Geddy Lee is my favorite bassist, which I'm surprised I didn't mention, but favorite bassist. And then the synth parts he came up with. Yeah, I know there are keyboardists that would just blow him out of the water. But to me, like, he created parts that fit the song so well, whether they were technically ambitious or not, they just sound good. And I've always liked to see where musicians cross over from one instrument to the other and how they kind of attack it in a different way. How I worked with a drummer, and this guy had played with a lot of people. I mean, we had a conversation because he was in a band with Flea, right. Kind of stuff. But it's funny, our opinions on bass players were so different because he was a drummer. He's like, they got to be there right on the kick and that's it, and don't do anything else, and you want to be there. He hated Flea. He didn't like his bass playing, I should say. It wasn't about the person, but it was about the bass playing. I'm like, dude, are you nuts? The bass lines that he writes are like just fit the song so well, and they're melodic and they mesh with Frusciante's guitar playing. And so for me, coming from a guitar player and him coming as a drummer to bass as an instrument, it was kind of interesting to see the difference in the opinions that we had because of the instruments that are our primary instruments.
Yeah. Mark King was like that as well, because Mark King started off as a drummer, and then somebody said, we need a bass player. So Mark's like, well, okay, I'll do that then. So he taught himself how to play the bass, but of course he's coming at it from a drummer's mentality, and so he's often quoted on record as saying, my style, that it's not just slap and pick, but he's also hammering. So that's how he gets that machine gun.
Yeah,
and he says it's because I play with a drummer's mentality, which is a questionable thing at best of times. But I'm playing. I want a 16ths. So that's why I'm going, and then I'll throw in a pick on the 2 and the 4, and I'll do this, and then it becomes this kind of, he's drumming on the bass, and then it all kind of, I can hear that now, and it's he's brought that kind of, and now he's one of the best bass players in the world and has been for many a year, and you hear his solo albums. He brings all that because he plays guitar, bass, drums, keyboards, the whole lot, and he brings it's just stunning.
Back to your previous statement, it's not approaching music as a drummer that's dangerous. It's approaching life as a drummer.
Yeah, well, that's true.
That gets you in trouble.
Or just approaching drummers. Not a good thing. Oh yes, let's get all the drummer jokes out of the way because I haven't heard any of those. How do you know when you've got your stage level with the drummer's dribbling from both sides of his mouth? There's a great joke. Actually, this is fun. This is a joke by Mark King. So they did a documentary to support, I think it was their Staring at the Sun album. And he tells this, he's walking through the streets of New Orleans and he's telling this joke to the interviewer. And it's about this guy that goes to somewhere in deepest, darkest Africa, let's say, and he gets off the plane and all he can hear are the jungle drums in the distance. And he says to the air hostess, he says, I can hear these drums are going on and on and on and on. He says, do they ever stop? And the air hostess says, the drums stop, very bad, very bad. So he says, okay, fine. So he gets in the cab and he's driving to the hotel, and all the while he can hear the drums in the distant background, but they're always there, just going on and on and on. He says to the taxi driver, do the jungle drums ever stop? And the taxi driver says, the drums stop, very bad, very bad. And so he says, okay. So he gets to the hotel and he's checking in the hotel, and in the background the jungle drums are bomb, 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 bomb. And he says, do the drums ever stop? And the receptionist says, if the drums stop, it's very bad, very bad. And he says, why is it so fucking bad? He says, because when the drums stop, it's time for the bass solo. Yes. Anyway, so we're 2 hours in,
right.
and I think we've done really well.
Yeah.
And conscious. I mean, I could go on. I need the loo. So should we wrap things up for tonight?
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. So I think all that remains for us to say is thank you to everyone that's been contributing in the chat room. This is and thanks first of all for attending, and thanks for your input as ever. I think next week, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have the actual channel. We've all got logins now, so hopefully we can all do stuff, and there'll be material and live streams and whatever we can come up with. But if you guys are in the chat room, if you're not already members of ProSynth Network, then please do come and join us over on Facebook. Just search ProSynth Network and fill out the appropriate application form. Send it in for approval, and we shall let you in. And if you have any suggestions as to what you want to do, please tell us that, because we want to do. If there's anything that you have sat there at times and watched other quality streams and said, oh, I wish they'd talk about this, or I wish they'd cover that, or maybe they should do something like this. Now's the time to tell us, because then we can think about building that in. So we've got some ideas of our own, but we'd like to know what you want to watch, because then if we do that, then you'll come and see us, and that's what we want. So in these troubled times, I think, judging by what they were saying on the news today, I think we might be here for a little bit longer. So
yeah.
But anyway, so big thanks to all of you in the chat room for joining us, and massive thanks to Ben. Thank you for coming, sir.
Yes.
No problem.
And to Chris as well for being there over in California. So I see it must be the quality of your light there. It must be mid-afternoon over there now.
Yeah, it's only 2:00 here.
Lovely. Lovely. To be in California in the spring. It's a lovely place. One day we'll get there again. Anyway, brilliant. Yeah. Thank you ever so much, everyone. And we will see you again, hopefully, this time next week. Okay.
Yes. Cheers, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.